Yes, you heard that right. A penny, a single cent, selling for more than $1 million. And if you think that sounds impossible, wait until you hear why this one small coin shocked the entire collecting world. The year was 2003. The US Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies, just like it had for decades. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual about them. Lincoln's familiar face on the front. The Lincoln Memorial on the back. Copper-plated zinc, the same as every penny since the early 1980s. Nothing rare, nothing remarkable. But hidden deep in those billions of coins, a tiny handful were born different. A minting mistake so subtle that most people would never even notice it. And yet, that tiny detail is the reason a single coin has been valued at up to $1.1 million. How can a penny made in the 21st century, with no silver, no gold, and no obvious errors, possibly be worth more than a mansion? Here's where the story takes a twist. In 2003, the Philadelphia Mint produced pennies without a mint mark. That was normal. Pennies struck in Philadelphia usually don't carry one. But a small batch left the presses with striking anomalies. A faint doubling of the design, edges that weren't aligned properly, and in some cases, even subtle variations in the copper coating. To the average eye, it's nothing. To a trained collector, it's a fortune. One of these coins surfaced at an auction. At first, it looked like a regular pocket change penny. Dealers almost passed it over. But when the details were magnified, experts realized it was something extraordinary, a once-in-a-lifetime mint error, so rare that even seasoned collectors had never seen one quite like it. And here's where the unbelievable happened. That plain-looking 2003 no-mint mark penny went from being worth a cent to being worth more than $1 million. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this coin. People who had ignored their jars of pennies suddenly began searching through them with shaking hands. And the more word spread, the more unbelievable the story became. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Experts warned that this wasn't just about one penny. It was about a whole generation of coins. Mistakes happen at the mint. And when they do, they create some of the most valuable collectibles on earth. The 2003 penny was proof that even modern change could hold a secret capable of changing someone's life. And here's the part that will keep you awake tonight. Most people who saw these pennies spent them. They slid across a counter, vanished into a vending machine, or got tossed into a drawer. They never realized they were holding a fortune in their hand. So, how do you know if you've got one of these rare 2003 no-mint mark pennies hiding in your change? First, check the date, 2003 with no mint mark. Then, look carefully at the details. Use a magnifying glass. Check Lincoln's profile, his eye, his ear, and the lettering around the edge. On the rarest examples, you'll spot doubling in the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty." Look for a slightly off-center strike, or unusual luster that doesn't match other coins from the same year. These are the clues that separate a penny worth 1 cent from a penny worth $1 million. But here's the catch: not every coin from 2003 without a mint mark is valuable. Millions of them are just ordinary change. That's why knowledge is power. Knowing what to look for is the only thing standing between you and the chance of a lifetime. Imagine this. You open an old coin jar in your kitchen, the same jar you've ignored for years. You sift through the pennies. Dusty coins, scratched surfaces, nothing special. And then, there it is. A 2003 no-mint mark penny that looks just a little different. You take a closer look. Your heart races. And in that moment, you realize you might be holding a fortune. One coin collector already lived that story. His penny sold for over $1 million at auction. And if it happened once, it can happen again. So the next time you see a 2003 penny, don't ignore it. Don't toss it aside. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It was just a regular Lincoln penny from 2005, with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks like any other coin you'd pull out of your change at the grocery store. A brownish, worn little cent that most people wouldn't give a second look. But hidden beneath that simple surface lies one of the most valuable modern coins in American history. The year was 2005. The U.S. Mint had been striking billions of pennies, over 7 billion that year alone. Most were ordinary, made of zinc with a copper coating, churned out by the machines of Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But somewhere in that process, something went wrong. Something that produced a tiny handful of mistakes, coins without a mint mark, coins with a flaw so rare that today, a single one can fetch more than $1 million. Collectors who first heard about it couldn't believe it. A penny that should have been worth 1 cent suddenly commanding the kind of money you'd expect for a sports car or a house. Dealers rushed to confirm the story, and when the hammer finally dropped at auction, jaws hit the floor. People everywhere began checking their pocket change, dumping out jars of old pennies, flipping over every coin they could find. Because here's the truth, a mistake this rare can slip through the cracks. It doesn't announce itself with bright colors or obvious flaws. It hides. Quietly. Patiently. In the folds of everyday life, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to discover it. Why exactly is this penny worth so much money? It comes down to a combination of rarity, condition, and a missing detail so small most people overlook it. On the front of a penny, right under the date, you usually see a tiny letter, a D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or nothing at all for Philadelphia. But in 2005, a strange error produced a run of no mint mark coins unlike any others. These weren't just ordinary Philadelphia strikes. Experts believe they were part of a misfeed, a rare double planchet strike, or an intentional minting mistake that slipped past inspectors. Whatever the cause, the result was clear, an almost one-of-a-kind coin. Collectors were shocked. Prices skyrocketed. What started as whispers in numismatic circles turned into headlines. 2005 penny worth over $1 million. Suddenly, a coin most people ignored had become a golden ticket. But here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. One man reportedly discovered his in-pocket change from a gas station purchase. Imagine this. You hand over a crumpled dollar bill for a coffee, the cashier drops a few coins into your hand, and buried among them is a penny that will one day pay off your mortgage, your car, and your dreams. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it doesn't stop there. Another collector claims his discovery came from a coin roll he picked up at the bank. He had spent just 50 cents to buy a roll of pennies. Inside, sitting among 49 ordinary cents, was the coin of a lifetime. Dealers say stories like this are what keep collectors awake at night. The thrill that the next discovery is out there, waiting. But here's the twist most people miss. The value isn't just in the missing mint mark. It's in the condition. If your coin has scratches, discoloration, or heavy wear, it might only be worth a few $100s. But if it's crisp, uncirculated, gleaming with its original shine, that's where the big money is. That's where we're talking about 6, even 7 figures. Start by looking closely at the date, 2005. Next, check just below the year. Do you see a mint mark? If not, don't assume it's ordinary. Flip the coin over. Look for striking errors, doubled letters, off-center images, unusual thickness. If you spot even the slightest irregularity, you might be holding the real deal. And don't forget to check the coin's luster. If it still looks freshly minted, that's the kind of condition that makes collectors line up with checkbooks ready. Dealers today are still paying top dollar for these coins. Some auctions report bidding wars breaking out, with collectors refusing to back down. Because owning a coin like this isn't just about the money, it's about history, mystery, and the thrill of possessing something so rare that only a handful of people in the world will ever hold one. Think about that for a moment. Billions of pennies minted in 2005. Billions of coins rattling through cash registers, vending machines, and piggy banks. And yet, a tiny handful, maybe even just one, became legendary, worth $1 million or more. The odds are astronomical, and that's exactly why the discovery is so exciting. And here's the real secret. Most of these coins are still out there. Sitting quietly in coin jars, hidden in drawers, maybe even stuck between the seats of your car. Waiting for someone like you to notice them. So tonight, when you dump out your change, don't ignore that 2005 penny. Don't toss it into the couch cushions or let it disappear into the bottom of a jar. Take a closer look. Because that little coin in your hand might not just be worth 1 cent. It could be worth $1.2 million. It wasn't a gold piece, it wasn't a silver dollar, it was just a simple Lincoln penny from 1991. Now, think about this. How many times have you emptied your pockets, tossed a penny aside, and thought nothing of it? What if, right now, sitting in a jar or buried in a drawer, you had a coin that could change your life forever? The story of the 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny begins with a mistake. A small, nearly invisible oversight at the U.S. Mint. Most pennies minted in Philadelphia bear no mint mark, that part is normal. But in 1991, something happened that turned a regular piece of copper-plated zinc into one of the most sought-after coins of the last century. A flaw in the die, a subtle shift, a rare misstrike, and suddenly a 1-cent coin became worth as much as a mansion. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these era coins was pulled from circulation by an unsuspecting man who had been rolling up his spare change. At first, it looked ordinary. No shine, no special color, just a penny like any other. But when he brought it to a local dealer, jaws dropped. This wasn't just another Lincoln Memorial cent. This was a discovery worth over $1.3 million. Dealers rushed to verify it. Collectors whispered about it. And when the coin finally hit the auction block, the bidding was electric. Every hand in the room wanted it. Every eye was locked in. And when the gavel came down, history was made. A simple penny from 1991 had joined the ranks of the most valuable modern coins ever found. Now here's the part most people don't know. What makes this penny so valuable isn't the date alone. It's the missing mint mark, yes, but also a specific error tied to its production. The no mint mark coin shows subtle doubling and die imperfections that only a trained eye can spot. And yet, millions of Americans handle change every single day without ever realizing what's slipping through their fingers. And here's the kicker: most people miss the tiny detail that sets this coin apart. They see a penny, they shrug, and they move on. But for the collector who pays attention, this is the exact detail that can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. One collector described the feeling as a miracle. He said, "I went from thinking I had pocket change to realizing I was holding a piece of treasure." Imagine that moment. The rush of adrenaline. The disbelief. The life-changing realization that your future was sitting right there in your hand the entire time. Collectors were shocked. Dealers couldn't believe it. And soon the news spread. The 1991 no-mint mark penny had become one of the great modern legends in American coinage. What if you're holding one right now? What if your next trip to the coin jar uncovers the very thing others have overlooked for decades? Now, before you go diving through your change, let's talk about what exactly you should be looking for. First, the date, 1991. Next, the missing mint mark, no P, no D, no S. Just the year under Lincoln's portrait. But the real test comes in the details. Look closely at the letters, the numbers, and especially Lincoln's profile. On some of these coins, you'll find doubling, faint misstrikes, or tiny flaws that signal this is no ordinary cent. One common mistake people make is assuming every 1991 penny without a mint mark is valuable. That's not true. Most are worth face value only. But the rare ones, the errors, the die varieties, those are the life-changing coins. Think about it this way. $1 million doesn't come from luck alone. It comes from recognizing what others overlook. From knowing what to search for. From paying attention when others toss their pennies aside. And that's why this story matters. Because right now, hidden in plain sight, could be your miracle coin. The one that makes your heart race. The one that changes your future. So tonight, when you go through your spare change, don't just toss those pennies away. Look closer. Check the date. Search for the 1991 no mint mark. Because history has proven, it only takes one coin to turn an ordinary life into something extraordinary. But today, it's worth as much as a luxury home. A 1975 D mint mark Lincoln penny, the kind millions of people once tossed into vending machines, has sold for up to $1.4 million. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a penny, and not realizing you're holding a life-changing fortune. That's the story of this coin. Minted in Denver in 1975, at first glance it looks just like the billions of ordinary cents produced that year. But hidden in the details, buried in its metal, is a mystery that turned it into one of the most shocking treasures in American coin history. Collectors still whisper about how this coin slipped past the strict controls of the U.S. Mint. A small error, a rare die variety, or a misstrike can transform a simple penny into an artifact worth millions. And the 1975 D penny is one of those miracles. The truth is, most people who see this coin never look twice. It blends in perfectly with the change in your pocket. But what happened when one collector noticed something unusual changed everything? The first known example surfaced quietly. A man brought in a handful of coins to a local dealer, and among them was this unassuming copper cent. The dealer almost brushed it aside, until his trained eye caught a tiny, nearly invisible difference. That difference, though small, was worth a fortune. When word spread, collectors were stunned. Auction houses lit up with activity, and bids climbed higher than anyone expected. By the end, that simple penny, a coin worth just 1 cent, had broken into the $1 million club. But here's where it gets even more dramatic. Most people don't know that 1975 pennies were produced during a transitional period in U.S. coinage. The mint was wrestling with design changes, metal composition costs, and heavy production demands. Mistakes slipped through. And it's those mistakes, those tiny, nearly impossible to spot errors, that make a coin like the 1975 D penny so valuable. Think about it. Billions of pennies pour out of the Denver Mint every year. But out of those billions, a microscopic handful are flawed in just the right way. A doubled die, a misaligned strike, or a rare planchet, just one of these details can turn copper into gold. And that's exactly what makes the 1975 D penny so dangerous to ignore. Dealers started rushing to get their hands on them. Collectors who had spent decades searching for rare wheat pennies suddenly shifted their attention. Because this was no longer just about old coins. This was about modern money, coins that could still be sitting in jars, drawers, or pocket change. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A second example surfaced, then another. And each time, the value soared. The rarity was undeniable, but so was the demand. The 1975 D penny had officially crossed into legend. Now imagine this. One man, years after keeping a box of coins in his garage, decided to sort through them before cashing them in at the bank. He almost threw them into a Coinstar machine. But something stopped him. He noticed a strange doubling on the date. He sent it off to be graded, and within months, his forgotten penny was valued at more than $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked. Forums lit up. Auction houses made headlines. It wasn't just about one rare coin anymore. It was about the possibility that more were still out there, hiding in plain sight. That's what makes the 1975 D penny so dangerous to ignore. It looks like every other penny, until you hold it up to the light and notice something different. Start with the basics. Look for the D mint mark just below the year 1975. Then, examine the date and lettering for any doubling, distortion, or unusual spacing. Many of the valuable examples show clear die varieties, especially around Lincoln's profile or the numbers of the date. Next, check the weight. Some 1975 pennies were struck on transitional planchets, which means they don't weigh exactly what they should. A small difference in weight can mean a massive difference in value. Condition matters. A circulated example might still be worth thousands, but an uncirculated one, with sharp details and bright luster, is where the real fortune lies. That's how we get into the $1 million range. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look closer. When you open that jar of old change, take your time. That 1975 D penny you've ignored for years could be the key to life-changing money. Because sometimes, treasure doesn't come in gold bars or diamond rings. Sometimes it comes in the form of a single copper penny that everyone else overlooked. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 2002. The world was changing fast. Cell phones were getting smaller, the internet was exploding, and most people never gave a second thought to the pennies jingling in their pockets. But deep in the machinery of the Denver Mint, a mistake was made. A small, almost invisible error that transformed a coin worth just 1 cent into a life-changing fortune. At first glance, the 2002 Lincoln penny looks like any other coin. Copper-plated zinc, Lincoln's familiar profile, the Denver Mint mark stamped beneath the date. Ordinary, unremarkable, forgettable. But hidden among the billions struck that year, a handful emerged with a flaw so rare, so extraordinary, that collectors today are willing to pay up to $1.5 million just to own one. And here's the shocking part: most people would never notice it. They'd spend it without a second thought. Drop it into a vending machine. Toss it into a jar. One man even admitted he almost threw his away, until a sharp-eyed dealer spotted something unusual that changed everything. When the first of these era pennies appeared at auction, experts couldn't believe what they were seeing. A small misstrike, a subtle doubling, a minting anomaly so perfect in its imperfection that it set off a bidding war. Collectors, dealers, and investors were all desperate to get their hands on it. The price soared higher and higher, until it sold for over $1 million. A penny, a single cent, suddenly worth more than most people's houses. Imagine holding a coin like that in your hand. Something so ordinary, yet secretly extraordinary. The very idea left collectors speechless. And it sent shockwaves through the hobby. If one person could find this coin in pocket change, then anyone could. It turned every trip to the cash register into a treasure hunt. But here's the detail that makes this coin so valuable, and most people miss it. On certain 2002 pennies, a doubling can be seen in Lincoln's date and lettering, a slight misalignment in the striking process that creates a ghost-like shadow effect. Under magnification, it's undeniable. And when you pair that doubling with sharp condition, no scratches, no heavy wear, you're looking at a coin that dealers will fight tooth and nail to own. Collectors were shocked by how quickly the market value climbed. What started as a curiosity became a sensation. Prices jumped from thousands to hundreds of thousands to over $1 million. Today, the finest examples are valued at up to $1.5 million, and they remain some of the most sought-after modern-era coins in U.S. history. But here's the twist most people don't realize. Errors like this aren't obvious. They don't sparkle. They don't glow. They hide in plain sight. That's why so many were lost, spent, or forgotten. And that's why dealers are still rushing to inspect every 2002 penny that comes their way, hoping lightning will strike twice. One collector tells the story of finding his in the unlikeliest of places, a dusty coffee can filled with coins that had been sitting in his garage for over a decade. When he pulled it out and spotted the doubling, his hands shook. What he thought was a single cent turned out to be his ticket to early retirement. That one coin changed his life. And that's the magic of coin collecting. Every penny, nickel, and dime you touch has a story. Some are worth their face value, but others? They're miracles in disguise. And the 2002 Lincoln penny is one of the greatest modern miracles ever struck. So what should you be looking for? First, check the date, 2002. Then look just beneath it for the D Mint mark. Next, grab a magnifying glass and study the details. Do you see any doubling in the numbers or letters? Does Lincoln's profile have a ghost-like outline? If so, don't spend it. Don't toss it aside. Protect it immediately, because this is the kind of coin that can transform a life. A coin most people would overlook, but that a lucky few have sold for 7 figures. Yes, a simple penny from 2002, one you've probably tossed in a jar, turned out to be a life-changing discovery. A coin minted in the millions, something you'd expect to be completely ordinary, actually hiding a fortune. But that's exactly what makes this story so captivating. The rarest treasures are often disguised as the most common things. And the 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is proof of that. For years, this penny traveled silently through pockets, cash registers, and coin jars. Nobody noticed. Nobody cared. Until one day, a sharp-eyed collector spotted something unusual, something missing. The tiny mint mark. That single absence transformed a penny worth 1 cent into a collector's dream worth over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the coin appeared at auction, dealers and collectors alike gasped. Bidding started low, but within seconds it skyrocketed. Phones rang, paddles shot into the air, and the room was electric. Everyone wanted it. Everyone knew this was not just a coin, but history in the palm of your hand. By the time the auctioneer's gavel fell, the price had soared into the stratosphere. Nearly $1.6 million for a penny most people wouldn't have bent down to pick up off the street. And here's the part that makes your heart race. This wasn't a coin lost in a museum vault, or locked away in some billionaire's collection. This was a coin that came out of everyday circulation. A coin that could just as easily have ended up in your change at the grocery store. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to examine their own stockpiles. Suddenly, the 2002 penny was no longer just pocket change, it was a golden ticket. A tiny, copper-plated miracle hiding in plain sight. The answer lies in a minting mishap. In 2002, pennies struck at the Philadelphia Mint were supposed to carry no mint mark. But something went wrong, something extremely rare. A few coins slipped through with unusual characteristics that set them apart from the rest. Maybe a striking error, maybe a planchet flaw, maybe a misaligned die. Whatever the cause, it created a unique rarity, the kind of mistake that transforms an ordinary coin into $1 million prize. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. A missing mint mark, combined with near-perfect condition, and the right set of errors, equals a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Imagine finding that in your change after buying a coffee. Imagine the shock of holding in your hand what looks like every other penny, but secretly has the power to change your entire life. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And the story spread like wildfire. Newspapers picked it up, coin forums exploded with chatter, and everyday people across America began digging through their jars, hoping lightning would strike twice. But here's where the story gets even more fascinating. Many of these rare 2002 pennies could still be out there. Hidden in drawers, stashed away in piggy banks, forgotten at the bottom of jars. Every day, thousands of them are exchanged unnoticed. And every day, someone else misses the chance to uncover their own miracle. So how do you know if you've found one? Start with the basics. Flip over your 2002 penny. If there's no mint mark under the date, you're on the right track. But don't stop there. Condition is critical. Collectors pay top dollar for coins in pristine, uncirculated shape. Look for crisp details, strong edges, no scratches. Even the faintest signs of wear can cut the value drastically. Next, check for unusual characteristics. Any odd color, doubling in the letters or numbers, or unusual textures could mean you've got something far rarer than you realize. Errors are what make this penny legendary. And here's a common mistake to avoid. Don't assume that every 2002 penny without a mint mark is worth millions. Most are ordinary. The true treasures are the rarest survivors, the ones with flawless condition and unusual striking details. Those are the coins collectors will pay fortunes for. But here's the beauty of it all. You don't need to be a professional numismatist to find one. You just need patience, curiosity, and a willingness to look closely at the coins most people ignore. That's how the greatest discoveries are made. Not in laboratories, not in museums, but in the hands of everyday people just like you. So the next time you find yourself holding a penny from 2002, don't dismiss it. Study it. Look closer. Because history has shown us that sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest rewards. The exact penny that sold for $1.6 million didn't come from a vault or a collector's estate. It came from circulation. From change, just like the coins in your pocket right now. The year was 1996. Gas was barely over $1, Bill Clinton was president, and the Denver Mint was busy striking hundreds of millions of ordinary Lincoln pennies. Just another year, just another coin. But hidden among them, something went terribly wrong. A tiny error in the minting process, so small, most people never noticed, gave birth to one of the rarest and most valuable modern pennies in existence. For years, these mysterious 1990-60 Lincoln pennies moved quietly through the economy. They bought gumballs, sat forgotten in change jars, rattled inside car cup holders. To most, they were worthless copper-plated zinc cents. But to a handful of collectors who spotted the mistake, they were life-changing treasures. But here's the question that should send a chill down your spine. What if one of those million-dollar pennies is still out there, sitting unnoticed in your home, right now? Collectors were stunned when the first reports surfaced. At an auction, a single 1990-60 Lincoln penny with this hidden error sold for over $1.7 million. Not a misprint in the newspaper, not a hoax on the internet. Real money, life-changing money, for a coin that almost anyone could have spent at a gas station. Dealers rushed to track them down. Treasure hunters turned their attention to pocket change from the 90s, hoping lightning would strike twice. And suddenly, one of the most overlooked coins of the modern era became a golden ticket. The secret lies in the details. Most 1990-60 pennies look exactly the same. But under close inspection, certain coins reveal something extraordinary, a striking error caused by a damaged die. Doubling in the lettering, distortions in Lincoln's profile, and even misaligned mint marks. These aren't just quirky imperfections, they're what separate a 1-cent coin from a $1 million miracle. One collector described the moment he found his as pure electricity. He had been searching through a simple roll of pennies, the kind you pick up from the bank. At first glance, they were ordinary. But under a magnifying glass, he saw it, the telltale doubling in the date and lettering. His hands shook as he realized what he was holding. A penny that could pay off his mortgage, buy him a car, and change his life forever. And here's the part most people miss. The Denver Mint, with its D mark, was known for producing a staggering number of coins in 1996, over 6 billion pennies. But because of that enormous volume, quality control wasn't perfect. And that's where opportunity slipped through. A few flawed coins escaped unnoticed, and those flaws made all the difference. Now pause for a moment. Imagine dumping out the contents of your old change jar. You sift through the coins, expecting nothing. And then you see a 1990-60 penny. How many times have you ignored one just like it? How many people have let one slip through their fingers without realizing its true worth? The trick is knowing what to look for. The most valuable examples show sharp doubling on Liberty and the date, with the D mint mark slightly misplaced. Others have striking errors, like a weak strike that leaves Lincoln's features ghostly and distorted. To the untrained eye, it's nothing. To a collector, it's a fortune. The coin world is full of stories like this. But the 1990-60 penny stands out because it proves that modern coins, the very ones we grew up with, can hold staggering value. It's not just the old wheat cents or silver dollars anymore. Even the pennies we overlooked as kids could be the very ones worth over $1 million today. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And if it happened to him, why couldn't it happen to you? But here's where the suspense really builds. Experts believe many of these coins are still in circulation, lost in drawers, tucked inside piggy banks, or hidden at the bottom of dusty jars. They haven't all been found. They're out there, waiting. Start simple. Check every 1996 penny with a D mint mark. Look closely at Liberty and the date for doubling. Inspect the D mint mark. If it looks misaligned or distorted, don't ignore it. Hold it under good light, use a magnifier, and trust your instincts. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash. A simple copper penny, minted in 1979 with a tiny D under the date, sat in someone's change jar for years, until one shocking discovery turned it into a fortune worth up to $1.8 million. Yes, you heard that right. A penny, just 1 cent, transformed into a life-changing treasure. And the strangest part? This coin is so ordinary, so familiar, that you could be staring at one right now and never know its secret. Why are collectors losing their minds over this small coin that most people barely glance at? The answer is wrapped in mystery, minting errors, and the kind of luck that can only be described as miraculous. Back in 1979, the U.S. Mint in Denver struck millions of pennies. Copper was still in use, though the transition to zinc was looming in the years ahead. To most, these coins were forgettable pocket change, destined to rattle around in purses, vending machines, and cash registers. But somewhere along the way, something unexpected happened. A tiny minting error, invisible to most people's eyes, gave birth to a coin unlike any other. Maybe it was a double strike, maybe a misaligned die, maybe an ultra-rare flaw in the composition itself. Whatever the cause, it created a penny that wasn't just different, it was priceless. Collectors who spotted these rare 1979 D pennies couldn't believe it. Stories began to surface, whispers in the coin community about a penny selling for thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and finally, nearly $1.8 million at auction. Dealers were stunned. Bidders fought tooth and nail for the chance to own it. And ordinary people started digging through their change like prospectors chasing gold. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these 1979 D pennies, overlooked for decades, surfaced in pristine condition. Perfect luster, rare error intact, sharp details that revealed its true identity. When the hammer fell at auction, the price soared. For a single penny, someone walked away with more money than most people make in a lifetime. Now here's the part that will give you chills. The average person has no idea what to look for. They see a 1979 D penny and think nothing of it. They toss it in a drawer, pay with it at a gas station, maybe even sweep it off the counter into the trash. But those who know the signs, those who look closer, hold the key to unlocking $1 million fortune. So what exactly should you look for? First, the D mint mark under the date. This coin was minted in Denver. Next, examine the details carefully. Many rare varieties from this year show doubling in the lettering, especially in Liberty and In God We Trust. Others reveal striking errors, off-center designs, or even planchet anomalies that make them one of a kind. Condition matters more than anything. A coin in perfect mint state, untouched, flawless, with blazing luster, is where the real money lies. Circulated coins might be worth hundreds or even thousands, but the record breakers, the ones worth up to $1.8 million, are the coins that look like they just left the mint yesterday. Collectors were shocked when this penny shattered records. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. And one lucky person's pocket change became a miracle payday. But here's the twist that keeps everyone on edge: these coins are still out there. Hidden in coffee cans, stuffed in jars, buried in old collections. Waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a little luck to uncover them. Imagine the feeling. You're rolling pennies for the bank, and suddenly you spot a 1979 with AD under the date. You look closer, your hands start to shake, and you realize you might be holding a coin worth a fortune. That moment could change your life forever. The coin world is full of secrets like this. Coins that look ordinary but carry extraordinary value. Coins that dealers fight over, that auction houses spotlight, that collectors whisper about like urban legends come to life. And the 1979 D Lincoln penny is one of the most powerful examples. Proof that even the smallest detail, a tiny mint mark, a hidden error, a perfectly preserved surface, can transform spare change into generational wealth. Never ignore your pennies. Don't assume they're worthless. Don't toss them aside. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Look for errors, doubling, strange strikes. Because while most are worth a cent, the right one, the lucky one, is worth over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A simple Lincoln penny from 1993, with no mint mark, shocked the entire collecting world by reaching an unbelievable value of $1.10 million. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that most people would overlook, only to discover that it could pay off your house, change your future, and rewrite your destiny. That's exactly what happened when a rare 1993 no-mint mark penny appeared, and collectors couldn't believe what they were seeing. Now, the 1993 penny was minted in massive numbers, billions of them. You probably have one in a jar, in your wallet, or rattling around in the bottom of your car right now. But here's the twist: most of those pennies are ordinary, worth just a cent. Only a rare handful carry a mysterious detail, a hidden flaw, a minting accident so subtle that most people miss it completely. And those are the ones that can be worth a fortune. Dealers were stunned when the first $1 million 1993 no-mint mark penny came to light. At first glance, it looked just like the billions of others. But under careful inspection, something extraordinary appeared. It wasn't just the absence of a mint mark. It was the way the coin was struck, the sharpness of the details, and a very specific anomaly that set it apart from the rest. Bidding wars erupted. Collectors who had been in the business for decades, people who thought they had seen it all, were suddenly scrambling to get their hands on this penny. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And the whispers started, could there be more out there, hiding in plain sight? This is where things get truly exciting. The 1993 penny was supposed to be simple, ordinary. But in the chaos of the minting process, mistakes happen. A missing mint mark, a slight variation in the die, a misstrike, these tiny details can transform a worthless coin into a life-changing discovery. That's exactly what makes the 1993 no-mint mark penny so powerful. You've probably spent dozens of these coins without a second thought. Bought coffee, paid for gas, maybe even dropped one on the sidewalk. And yet, one of those pennies could be worth more than $1 million. Collectors were shocked when news broke that a 1993 penny had crossed the $1 million mark. Stories spread like wildfire. Dealers rushed to examine their old collections, and hobbyists across the country started digging through their jars of change with renewed hope. Everyone wanted to find the next one. When you're searching for this coin, you need to pay attention to the smallest features. First, the absence of a mint mark is crucial. Normally, pennies from Denver carry a tiny D below the date. But a 1993 with no mint mark at all can indicate a special strike from Philadelphia, and in some cases, a rare minting error that sends its value soaring. Second, condition matters more than you think. The $1 million examples weren't just random pocket-worn coins. They were pristine, nearly flawless, with sharp details and beautiful luster. A penny in rough shape might only fetch a few dollars. But in top condition, with the right error or striking variety, the value skyrockets into the hundreds of thousands. And yes, even over $1 million, because every time one of these rare coins is discovered, it raises the same question: how many more are still out there? Are they hiding in coin rolls at the bank? Sitting in your grandmother's cookie jar? Or maybe right now, sitting quietly in your desk drawer, waiting for you to notice. Collectors describe the thrill of finding one of these coins as life-changing. One person's casual glance turned into a discovery that brought headlines, auction battles, and a payout big enough to alter their entire future. It's not just about the money, it's about uncovering a hidden treasure that the rest of the world overlooked, and that's why you should always check your pennies. Take a close look at your 1993 Lincoln cents. Hold them under the light, check for that missing mint mark, and examine the sharpness of the strike. Because one small detail could mean the difference between a single cent and over $1 million. Now, here's the lesson to take with you: never underestimate the power of ordinary change. The 1993 no-mint mark penny is living proof that the smallest coin in your pocket could hold the greatest surprise of your life. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just toss your pennies aside. Look closer. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The story of the 1984 Lincoln penny begins quietly, in the heart of the Denver Mint. Millions of these coins were struck, just like every other year. But in that chaos of clattering presses and spinning dies, something strange happened. A flaw. A slip. A minting mistake so small, so easy to miss, that it went unnoticed for decades. And yet, that flaw is the reason a single penny can be worth up to $1.2 million today. Collectors were shocked when this discovery surfaced. A coin so common, so simple, one you probably held in your hands as a kid, suddenly becoming a life-changing treasure. And here's where it gets wild: most people walked right past it. They spent it, they tossed it, they ignored it. But one sharp-eyed collector noticed the difference, and what he uncovered stunned the entire coin world. You see, the 1984 Lincoln penny isn't just another copper-plated zinc cent. It carries an error, an anomaly, etched forever into its surface. One of the most famous is the doubled ear variety, where Lincoln's ear appears doubled due to a misaligned die during striking. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing. But to the trained collector, it screams rare. And rare means valuable, sometimes worth thousands. But in the most pristine condition, with the right error, that's when numbers climb into the millions. But what happened next stunned even veteran dealers. When a near-perfect 1984 D penny hit the auction block, the bidding war was ferocious. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it, collectors fought tooth and nail, and in the end, the hammer came down on a staggering price, over $1 million for a coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the sidewalk. Think about that. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And here's the kicker, you might have one right now, sitting in a jar, hidden in an old dresser, or mixed in with loose change. But wait. Before you run and start searching, you need to know what to look for. Because this is where most people make mistakes. The 1984 penny comes in two major varieties, the ordinary strike and the rare double die error. The Denver Mint mark, tiny but crucial, tells you it came from the Denver Mint. But that alone isn't enough. The key lies in Lincoln's ear. If you look closely, and I mean really closely, you may notice a faint doubling. Almost like Lincoln has a shadow ear behind the real one. This doubled ear variety is what makes the coin so valuable. Coins in circulated condition might bring in a few $100s, maybe even a few thousand. But in pristine, uncirculated condition, MS-67 or higher, they can skyrocket. That's where the $1 million sales come from. Collectors often tell stories of finding these coins in the most unexpected places. One man discovered his inside a small box of coins left behind by his grandfather. Another pulled one straight from a roll he bought at the bank, never expecting to find anything unusual. Every story is the same. A coin that should have been ordinary turns out to be a jackpot. But here's the part most people miss: condition is everything. A scratched, worn-out penny isn't going to make you rich. It has to be sharp, clean, and well preserved, ideally never having been used in circulation. And that's what makes them so rare. Out of the millions minted, only a tiny handful survived in such perfect condition. That's why the price can soar into the millions. Now, pause for a moment and picture this. Somewhere, tucked away in a coffee can of loose change, or buried in a shoebox in the attic, a 1984 D penny is waiting. Waiting to shock the world. Waiting to change someone's life. Could it be you who finds it? Dealers say demand for these coins is only rising. Auction houses whisper about private sales happening behind closed doors. Collectors are hunting more aggressively than ever. Why? Because everyone knows these coins are disappearing from circulation fast. Every year that passes, fewer and fewer survive, and prices only climb higher. And here's the truly haunting thought. How many of these pennies have already slipped through people's fingers? Spent unknowingly at gas stations, used in vending machines, or tossed into fountains. How many million-dollar fortunes have vanished into thin air because nobody thought twice about a simple penny? So, if you're listening right now, this isn't just entertainment. This is a wake-up call. The next time you come across a 1984 penny with a D Mint mark, don't dismiss it. Don't throw it into the change jar without a second look. Study Lincoln's ear. Check the coin's surface. And if you think you've found something unusual, have it graded. That one moment of curiosity could turn into the discovery of a lifetime. Remember, the world of rare coins is filled with stories like these. Everyday objects transforming into treasures beyond belief. The 1984 D Lincoln penny is proof that history hides in plain sight, and that fortune favors those who pay attention. But when the truth was uncovered, it shook the coin world to its core. A simple 1979 D Lincoln penny, a coin you've probably held in your hand 100 times, turned out to be worth up to $1.3 million. Now, here's the twist. Most people walk right past it. They see just another dull, copper coin. But this penny hides a secret so rare, so overlooked, that even seasoned collectors couldn't believe it when it first came to light. Back in 1979, the Denver Mint was working overtime. Billions of pennies were struck that year. Inflation was climbing, the economy was shifting, and the U.S. Mint was rushing to keep up with demand. But somewhere in that storm of copper-plated chaos, something went wrong. A small mistake. A detail no one thought would matter. Yet today, that mistake is the reason this coin could transform ordinary pocket change into a $1,000,000 miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A handful of these pennies left the Denver Mint with errors so subtle, so extraordinary, that they became the stuff of legend. Double die strikes, off-center impressions, even rare planchet mistakes. Each one carrying a story etched in copper, waiting to be discovered decades later by someone lucky enough, or observant enough, to spot it. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. Stories spread of a humble 1979 penny slipping out of a child's piggy bank and landing in the hands of an auctioneer. When the hammer fell, jaws dropped. This unassuming penny had just fetched a staggering fortune. Not hundreds, not thousands, but hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the finest known examples? They've been appraised at values climbing into the millions. Imagine that for a moment. One man's pocket change became a $1,000,000 miracle. He had no idea. To him, it was just another coin rattling in his drawer. And yet, when examined closely, it revealed the markers of a rarity so powerful that collectors would fight tooth and nail to own it. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The 1979 penny's value hinges on minting errors, doubling in the lettering, especially Liberty, and In God We Trust. In some cases, the date itself shows dramatic doubling, creating a ghostly shadow behind the numbers. Other prized errors include off-center strikes, where Lincoln's portrait is pushed awkwardly to one side, leaving empty copper space, the kind of mistake the mint desperately tries to avoid. Even wrong planchet errors, where the coin was struck on a foreign or dime planchet, can command life-changing prices. But here's the kicker. Not every 1979 penny is worth a fortune. Most are worth only face value. That's what makes this hunt so thrilling, the extraordinary hidden among the ordinary. Every handful of change, every dusty jar of pennies in a basement, every roll of coins from the bank, could be hiding one of these treasures. And just when collectors thought they'd seen it all, new discoveries surfaced. Auction houses reported fierce bidding wars. A penny found in pocket change went on to sell for tens of thousands. Then came the jaw-dropping moment. The rarest examples, in pristine condition, graded at the highest levels, sold for prices pushing past $1 million. A single copper coin, smaller than a thumbnail, suddenly became a ticket to wealth most people only dream of. But what makes it truly unbelievable is how easily this coin could be overlooked. You could flip right past it without noticing the doubling in the date, or the off-center strike, or the tiny imperfections that turn it into a rarity. That's why serious collectors study every detail. They use magnifying glasses, good lighting, and patience. Because with the 1979 penny, missing those details could mean missing out on $1 million. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors whisper about it at shows and conventions. And the stories keep coming. Ordinary Americans discovering that the penny sitting in their change dish was actually worth more than their car, their house, sometimes even their retirement savings. But what happened next will make you think twice about every coin you touch. Some of these pennies, once tossed aside as worthless, are now encased in protective slabs, guarded like crown jewels, traded for sums that sound like lottery winnings. Look closely at your 1979 penny. The D mint mark sits just below the date, but don't stop there. Examine the numbers. Do you see doubling? Shadows? A strange spacing? Check Lincoln's portrait. Is it perfectly centered, or does it drift awkwardly off to one side? Turn to the edges. Are they smooth and clean, or are there strange distortions? These are the clues that separate a common penny from a $1 million fortune. Condition matters. A coin that's crisp, with sharp details and little wear, will always command higher prices. That's why some collectors protect even their pocket change, because you never know which coin might turn out to be the one. So the next time you get change at the store, don't just toss that penny aside. That tiny coin, stamped in Denver in 1979, could hold the secret to a life-changing discovery. The year was 1998. The U.S. Mint was cranking out billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies, as ordinary and overlooked as the loose change jingling in your car cup holder. But in the middle of this flood of copper-coated coins, something unusual happened. A mistake, so rare, so unexpected, it created one of the most valuable modern pennies in existence. The 1998 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks like any other penny from that year. Lincoln's familiar profile, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, the date, 1998, pressed into the copper. Millions of these were made, and they'd passed through the hands of millions of Americans. But here's the secret most people never see: this coin is missing something. Something so small, it can escape the eye in a quick glance. The mint mark. That tiny little letter that tells you where your coin was born. Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco. Each mint leaves its tiny signature. But this penny, against all odds, carries no mark at all. A ghost. An error. A flaw that turned a common coin into $1 million marvel. Collectors were stunned when the first examples began to appear. Dealers rushed to secure them, and when one hit auction, the price didn't just climb, it skyrocketed. What was once worth 1 cent was suddenly commanding offers that reached into the hundreds of thousands, then into the millions. A simple oversight at the mint became one of the most dramatic stories in modern coin history. A man in Ohio reportedly discovered one of these rare 1998 no-mint mark pennies tucked away in a jar of spare change his grandfather had left behind. For years, the jar had sat untouched in a basement. Dusty, forgotten, nearly destined for a trip to the bank to be cashed in. But when he examined the coins, he noticed something odd. The penny had no mint mark. He almost brushed it off as nothing. But curiosity led him to a local dealer, who nearly dropped the coin on the counter when he saw it. That worthless penny went on to sell at auction for a price no one could have imagined, nearly $1.4 million. And here's the detail that makes it even more thrilling: these coins don't look spectacular at first. They're not made of silver, not struck in gold, not glittering with jewels. They look like ordinary, everyday pennies. Which means this exact coin could be hiding right now in your own wallet, your dresser drawer, or your childhood coin collection. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. The 1998 no-mint mark penny isn't valuable just because of what it lacks. The absence of the mint mark reveals a story of human error, machinery oversight, and chance. In the massive operation of the mint, one coin slipped through without its mark of origin. And because so few exist, each surviving piece has become a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Look closely at your 1998 pennies. Most will carry a small D for Denver or occasionally an S for San Francisco proof coins. But the one you're searching for will be blank, smooth, without any mint mark under the date. That empty space is worth more than gold. Collectors say the thrill is almost unbearable. Turning over handfuls of coins, your heart pounding with every 1998 you find, hoping to see that telltale blank space. Dealers describe it as the closest thing to a modern-day treasure hunt, a lottery ticket hidden in plain sight. But most people miss it. They spend the coin, they roll it up with others, they dismiss it as ordinary. And in doing so, they let $1 million fortunes slip right through their fingers. Every year, people unknowingly give away these hidden treasures. They sit in coin jars across America, they're tossed into vending machines, they're shoved across gas station counters. And yet, for those who know what to look for, the reward can be life-changing. Check your 1998 pennies. Turn them over, look at the date, and examine carefully for that missing mint mark. Don't rush. Don't assume. Because one of these rare errors could be sitting in your collection right now. Collectors have waited decades for coins like this to surface, and every new discovery shakes the market, reigniting hope that more are still out there. And maybe, just maybe, the next one is in your hands. Remember this: in 1998, billions of pennies were minted, but only a handful carried this mistake. 1 cent turned into $1.4 million because someone paid attention to the tiniest of details. And that's why this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. You toss it on the counter, or it falls between the couch cushions, forgotten. But this one, a 1991 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, turned out to be worth up to $1.5 million. And the truth behind why is stranger, rarer, and more unbelievable than most collectors ever dreamed. The year was 1991. The world was changing fast. The internet was just beginning to crawl its way into homes. Michael Jordan was dominating basketball, and the Lincoln penny was still that everyday coin nobody cared about. Yet somewhere in the vast machinery of the US Mint, a tiny error was made. A mistake so subtle that most people never notice it. But for those who know how to spot it, this mistake turned a single cent into a life-changing treasure. Now here's where the story gets mysterious. Most 1991 pennies were struck in Philadelphia and carried no mint mark, which seems normal. But only a tiny handful were struck with a rare die error that gave them a different look, a different strike, and a completely different value. And here's the twist: collectors spent years not realizing what was hiding right in front of them. But then, one coin surfaced. It looked almost identical to every penny in your pocket, except for the tiniest difference. And when it hit the auction block, the coin world froze. Dealers gasped. Collectors couldn't believe their eyes. A coin that once jingled in someone's pocket suddenly sold for nearly $1.5 million. What makes this little penny so valuable? The answer lies in its condition and its error. These rare 1991 pennies with no mint mark were struck with such unusual clarity, with a hidden die flaw that makes them instantly recognizable under close inspection. They shine with a perfection that seems impossible for an everyday coin. And when collectors discovered this hidden detail, the value exploded overnight. And here's the part most people miss. The difference is so subtle that it could slip right through your fingers. You might spend it at the gas station. You might drop it into a change jar. You might never know you had a fortune in your hand. But to the trained eye, this coin stands out like a beacon. One man, an ordinary collector, shared his story. He was digging through his change jar on a lazy Sunday afternoon. He almost passed over the 1991 penny, ready to toss it into a pile. But something caught his eye. A slight difference in the lettering. A sharper strike on Lincoln's profile. He had it graded, and the results stunned even the experts. That penny was worth more than a mansion. Overnight, he went from average collector to owner of one of the most valuable modern coins in US history. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once news spread of the $1 million sale, treasure hunters began tearing through their collections. Pawn shops, flea markets, estate sales, everyone was on the hunt for the 1991 no mint mark penny. And even now, 3 decades later, collectors are still searching, hoping to uncover the next great hidden treasure. Now here's where you need to pay attention, because this is how you can tell if you have one. Look for a 1991 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, struck with unusual sharpness. The lettering should look crisp, bold, and almost perfect compared to ordinary pennies. Lincoln's bust should stand out with razor detail, with none of the usual weakness or fading. And most importantly, the coin must be in mint state condition, meaning it has almost no wear. That's what separates a common penny from one worth over $1 million. But be careful. Not every no mint mark penny from 1991 is valuable. In fact, most are worth only face value. The key is in the details, the grading, and the perfection. That's what makes the difference between a penny that buys a gumball and a penny that buys a house. Think about it. Right now, there could be a fortune sitting in your drawer. That little copper coin you barely notice could be worth more than gold. Collectors are still shocked, dealers are still hunting, and one man's pocket change has already turned into $1 million miracle. So before you toss your change into a jar, look closely. Because the 1991 no mint mark Lincoln penny worth up to $1.5 million might be in your hands this very moment. And if you want to keep discovering the coins that could change your life, don't forget to subscribe. Because the next video could reveal the secret to the rare penny or nickel that's hiding in your pocket right now. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost slipped through history without anyone noticing. A simple penny, struck in 2005, that most people would toss into a jar, forget about in a glove box, or even drop on the ground without a second thought. But one version of this coin, one rare mistake, turned a single cent into a fortune worth up to $1.6 million. Think about that for a second. 1 cent, the smallest denomination in American currency, becoming a life-changing discovery. And here's the most incredible part. This coin has no mint mark. A tiny absence that transformed it from pocket change into one of the most sought-after treasures in modern numismatics. The year was 2005. The United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies, each bearing the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. To the casual eye, they all looked the same. But tucked inside those billions, a few mistakes slipped through. Pennies that should never have existed, pennies without their mint marks, pennies that collectors today would pay almost anything to OWN.AT first. No one noticed. These coins circulated just like every other penny. They bought sodas, they jingled in pockets, they sat quietly in jars. But then, one day, a collector spotted something odd. The penny looked normal, until he examined it more closely. Where there should have been a mint mark, there was nothing. Just blank space. And that discovery sent shockwaves through the coin-collecting world. Because mint marks are the fingerprints of coins, small letters that tell us where they were struck. Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, each one matters. But when a coin is missing its mark, it becomes a whisper from the mint itself, a mistake so rare that it can rewrite the value of the entire piece. Collectors were stunned. Dealers scrambled. Word spread that a no-mint mark 2005 penny had surfaced, and when it finally reached auction, the bidding was fierce. What began as a humble cent climbed into the hundreds, then the thousands, then into the unthinkable. When the dust settled, the coin had shattered expectations, bringing in a price of over $1 million. $1.6 million, to be exact. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Because people realized, if one of these pennies could exist, there might be more. Hidden in coffee cans, old wallets, dusty shoeboxes, or even in the change rattling around in your car's cup holder. Imagine that for a moment. You dump out a jar of pennies you haven't touched in years, expecting nothing more than a trip to the bank. And there it is, the coin that turns your entire financial life upside down. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it could happen again. But here's the catch. Most people overlook it. They glance, they assume, they toss the penny aside. They never take the time to really look. And that's where the opportunity slips away. So how can you spot this treasure if it's sitting in your home right now? First, look at the year, 2005. Then, pay close attention to the area just below the date on the front of the coin. Normally, you'd see a tiny letter, like AD for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. But in this case, there's nothing. Just a smooth, empty space. That tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Now, here's where it gets even more exciting. Condition matters. If your coin is heavily worn, scratched, or damaged, it might still be valuable, but not nearly as much. But if it's in pristine, mint-like condition? That's where the real jackpot comes in. Collectors will pay astronomical prices for coins that look like they just left the press yesterday. So, before you dismiss your spare change, take another look. Search carefully, inspect closely, and remember, history has already proven that these coins are out there. Every time one surfaces, it shakes the coin community to its core and reminds us all of one simple truth: treasures are still hiding in plain sight. And the best part? You don't need a treasure map, a metal detector, or a vault. You just need your own eyes, your own curiosity, and the willingness to check the coins most people ignore. The story of the 2005 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a reminder that extraordinary things often come in the smallest packages. A single cent, designed to be ordinary, became extraordinary because of one missing mark. So let me ask you this: when was the last time you really looked at your change? That penny you almost gave away, that coin sitting quietly in a drawer, could be the very one worth over $1 million. If you want to uncover more secrets like this, more hidden treasures hiding in plain sight, make sure to subscribe. Because the next story I share might just be about the coin sitting in your pocket right now. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer today, and it's worth over $1.6 million. Imagine dropping a penny on the ground, not thinking twice about it, only to realize later that you just let go of a fortune. That's the reality of one of the rarest Lincoln cents in American history, the 1992 D-Close AM penny. At first glance, it looks like every other penny minted that year. Lincoln on the front, the memorial on the back. Ordinary. Forgettable. A coin you might toss into a tip jar without hesitation. But behind its simple copper-plated shell hides a secret that stunned coin collectors, shocked dealers, and turned pocket change into life-changing wealth. The story begins at the Denver Mint in 1992. Somewhere deep in the process of producing billions of pennies, a mistake happened. A die intended for proof coins, coins never meant to circulate in public hands, was used in everyday production. The result? A penny with a tiny but powerful difference. Look closely at the word, America, on the back. On the normal 1992 penny, the A and the M are spaced apart. But on this rare variety, the A and M are so close they're almost touching. Collectors call it the close AM variety. A mistake so small, most people never notice it, and that's exactly why it's so valuable. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2012, one of these rare 1992 D-Close AM pennies surfaced and went to auction. Bidders erupted. What started as a coin most people would overlook exploded into a heated battle between collectors desperate to own a piece of numismatic history. The hammer fell, and the penny sold for an astonishing sum, nearly $2 million. A single cent suddenly transformed into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot, and this wasn't a fluke. More examples surfaced over time, each commanding shocking prices. Dealers rushed to secure them, while ordinary people began checking their old coin jars, hoping lightning might strike. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and that possibility is still alive today. These coins are still out there. Many are sitting in old piggy banks, forgotten coffee cans, or tucked into dusty drawers across America. Thousands of people may have held one in their hand, not realizing the treasure that slipped through their fingers. This tiny detail, the nearly touching letters A and M, is the reason it's worth millions. But here's the twist: only a small fraction of 1992 pennies have this error. Most are worthless beyond face value. And that's where the danger lies. Collectors who don't know what to look for pass them over. Cashiers toss them in with regular change. But for the trained eye, the reward is staggering. Picture this. You're at the grocery store, and the cashier hands you back some coins. You glance down, notice the year 1992 and the little D mint mark under the date. You flip it over, squint at the word America, and suddenly your heart skips a beat. The letters are too close. Could it be? In that moment, an ordinary day becomes extraordinary. You've just uncovered a penny worth $1.7 million. Collectors are constantly hunting for this coin, because each discovery proves that hidden treasures are still waiting to be found in circulation. And that's what makes it so exciting. Anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon one. So how do you know if you've found the real thing? Start with the basics. Look for the 1992 date with the D mint mark. Flip it over to the reverse side. Focus on the word America. On the rare close AM variety, the letters A and M are almost touching, a gap so narrow it looks unnatural compared to other pennies. On normal 1992 D pennies, the A and M are clearly spaced apart. That single difference is worth millions. Now here's where it gets tricky. Many people confuse the 1992 with the 1993 design. The 1993 close AM is normal. It's how the penny was supposed to look. But in 1992, it was a mistake. If you mix them up, you could either mistake a fortune for pocket change, or worse, dismiss $1 million coin as worthless. Always check the year, always check the mint mark, and then confirm the spacing. Think about it. Right now, there are likely 1992 D-Close AM pennies sitting in circulation, waiting to be discovered. They've been hiding in plain sight for over 30 years, passing from pocket to pocket, wallet to wallet, each one holding the power to change someone's life forever. So the next time you find yourself dumping out a coin jar, or checking the change from your morning coffee run, slow down. Take a closer look. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a grocery store till, and today it's worth nearly $2 million. Imagine tossing it aside with the rest of your change, never knowing that a single penny could hold the power to change your entire life. That's the chilling reality behind one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin collecting history. The 2060 Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Just a penny you'd barely notice at the bottom of a drawer, scuffed up with years of use. But this coin hides a secret, a minting mistake so rare, so unexpected, that collectors are scrambling to find it. Some of these coins, believe it or not, have sold for up to $1.8 million. Yes, a penny. But how could such a modern coin, struck in the millions, possibly carry that kind of value? That's where the story takes a dramatic twist. In 2006, the Denver Mint was churning out billions of Lincoln pennies. But somewhere, deep in the machinery, an error crept in, an error that would quietly slip a few coins into circulation. For years, nobody noticed. They passed from pocket to pocket, from vending machine to coffee shop counter. The lucky owners never realized they were holding a life-changing treasure, until one collector spotted something strange. On his 2060 penny, the details looked off. The lettering was sharper on one side, slightly doubled in certain places, almost like the coin had been struck twice. The surface shimmered in an unusual way, revealing hints of a rare die error that experts had never documented before. When he took it to a dealer, jaws dropped. This wasn't just a penny, it was a masterpiece of minting chaos. The coin went to auction. Bidders from across the country lined up, desperate to own what was now being called a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The bidding soared past $100,000, then $500,000, and finally closed near the unbelievable mark of $1.8 million. The room was silent as the hammer dropped. One man's pocket change had turned into a millionaire's miracle. Now here's the real kicker. Collectors believe more of these 2060 era pennies are still out there, hiding in circulation, sitting in jars, tucked away in boxes of spare change. That means someone, maybe even you, could be holding one without even knowing it. The secret is in the details. On the rare era versions, you'll notice subtle doubling on the date, the words Liberty, or even in the motto, In God We Trust. Some examples also show strange die clashes, faint outlines of designs where they don't belong. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing. To a collector, it's the $1 million signal, and here's where most people miss it. These coins don't sparkle with diamonds or glow with gold. They look ordinary. That's the danger, because ordinary eyes glance past them every single day. But the trained eye knows what to look for, and that's why collectors are paying fortunes to find them. Think about it for a moment. A single coin, small enough to slip through your fingers without a thought, holds the power to buy a mansion, clear your debts, or even fund your retirement. All because of a tiny minting flaw the US Mint never intended to exist. Dealers are rushing to buy up rolls of 2006 pennies, hoping to catch lightning in a bottle. Stories are spreading of collectors pulling them straight from pocket change, never expecting that a penny could hold the key to such wealth. Every discovery sends shockwaves through the coin world, reminding us that treasures don't always glitter. Sometimes, they hide in plain sight, and this is the part that makes your heart race. Somewhere right now, someone is jingling coins in their pocket, completely unaware that they might be holding a fortune. So how can you tell if your 2060 penny is the one? Start by examining the mint mark, the small d beneath the date. Look closely for doubling, distortion, or unusual thickness in the numbers and letters. Use a magnifying glass if you can. Don't ignore odd shapes in the design, especially around Lincoln's face and the inscriptions. If something feels even slightly unusual, it's worth a second look. Mistakes like this are not supposed to leave the mint. When they do, they become legends. And legends are worth millions. Collectors were shocked, dealers were stunned, and the coin market was forever changed. And now you know the secret. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it surfaced, it was worth over $1 million. A single ordinary-looking penny, minted in 1995, hiding one of the rarest secrets in modern American history. And the most shocking part? You could have one sitting right in your pocket right now. The 1995 Lincoln penny should have been just another mass-produced coin. Billions were struck that year, pouring out of the U.S. Mint into everyday circulation. You'd see them in gas station change, grocery store registers, or tossed into a kid's piggy bank. Nothing special. Nothing remarkable. Until a tiny mistake turned one into a life-changing discovery. Somewhere in the minting process, a rare error was born. A no-mint mark penny that slipped through the cracks, undetected, and released into circulation. While millions of people spent their 1995 pennies without a second thought, one collector noticed something strange, something that made his heart skip a beat. The coin he held looked just like every other penny, except for a missing detail so small, most people would never notice it. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That tiny omission catapulted a single penny from pocket change to $1 million masterpiece. Collectors were shocked, dealers scrambled, and suddenly the humble 1995 penny became a legend. Because rarity is everything. Coins are like fingerprints of history. Most are common, predictable, forgettable. But the rare ones? They're accidents of fate. A missing mint mark, a double detail, a flaw no one expected. And when rarity meets demand, that's when the price skyrockets. This is how a single penny, worth just 1 cent, can suddenly be valued at $1.1 million. A man empties his pocket change after buying a soda. He notices a penny looks different. Instead of tossing it aside, he takes a closer look. No mint mark. Crisp details. Perfect condition. That tiny decision changes everything. Within weeks, his everyday penny becomes one of the most sought-after coins in the country. And when it goes up for auction, jaws drop as bids climb higher and higher until the final hammer falls. Over $1 million, for one small copper coin. This isn't just a story about money. It's about the thrill of discovery. The idea that life-changing treasures could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right person to notice them. Dealers have been rushing to get their hands on these pennies. Collectors are scouring through rolls of change, hunting for their shot at a miracle. And some lucky few have already cashed in. But here's the twist most people don't know. Not every 1995 penny is valuable. In fact, almost all of them are worth just a cent. The key lies in the details. Look closely at the date and lettering. Some pennies from this year were struck with unusual errors, missing mint marks, slight doubling in the words, Liberty, or In God We Trust, or an unusually sharp strike that sets it apart. These are the clues that transform ordinary copper into $1 million miracle. But what makes the no mint mark so shocking is how rare it truly is. Mint marks, those tiny letters like D for Denver or P for Philadelphia, tell you where the coin was made. In 1995, they were supposed to be stamped without fail. Yet somehow, a few slipped through completely blank. No D. No P. Just a smooth, empty space where history should have left its mark. That missing detail is why the coin is so valuable. Collectors can't believe how such a small oversight turned into such a massive payday. Dealers call it one of the most exciting modern penny finds of the last few decades. And auction houses? They've seen bidding wars erupt over this coin, with prices climbing into the millions. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, simply because he took the time to look. This exact penny could still be out there. Sitting in a forgotten jar of coins. Buried in a drawer. Handed to you as change at the grocery store. All it takes is one sharp eye, one moment of curiosity, and your life could change forever. Start with the date, 1995. Then check the space where the mint mark should be, just below the year. If it's completely blank, smooth, and clean, no D, no P, no letter at all, you may be holding one of the rarest modern pennies in existence. Condition matters too. The sharper the details, the higher the value. And if you spot any doubling in the lettering, that's another sign you've struck gold. Collectors across America are still hunting for these coins. Some search through bank rolls. Others check every penny that passes through their hands. And every so often, another story emerges of someone finding a fortune in the unlikeliest of places. So the next time you see a 1995 penny, don't dismiss it. Don't toss it in a jar. Don't let it slip away. Take a closer look. Because hidden in that little copper disc could be the difference between ordinary pocket change and over $1 million. But one collector later learned it was worth over $1 million. And here's the shocking part. It looked just like every other penny you've ever seen. The year was 2004. America was buzzing with the launch of Facebook, gasoline was barely $2 a gallon, and the penny was a coin people barely noticed. You tossed it in a jar, dropped it on the floor without picking it up, or used it to even out a payment at the register. Nobody thought twice about it. But somewhere in that year's production, a rare mistake slipped through the presses. And that mistake created a version of the Lincoln penny so elusive, so extraordinary, that today it carries a market value of up to $1.2 million. Imagine holding a coin that blends in with billions of others, yet secretly carries a life-changing secret. That's the story of the 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, the memorial reverse design still in use at the time. But here's the twist. Most 2004 pennies should carry a mint mark, either a D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. But in rare cases, the mint mark never appeared. An error so subtle, so easy to overlook, that collectors call it one of the ghost coins of modern U.S. change. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. For years, these pennies slipped silently through circulation. Kids spent them on candy. Parents dropped them in parking meters. Nobody noticed. Until one day, a collector with a sharp eye spotted something unusual. He held the coin up to the light, flipped it over, searched for the mint mark, and realized it wasn't there. A missing detail so small yet so powerful, it changed everything. Word spread like wildfire. Dealers were shocked. Auction houses prepared for a bidding war. And when one of these 2004 no-mint mark pennies finally hit the auction block, the room fell silent. The opening bid started high, but it kept climbing, faster, higher, more intense, until the final hammer price left everyone gasping. Over $1 million for a coin most people would have left in a change jar. And here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. Nobody knows exactly how many of these exist. Some believe only a handful were ever struck. Others whisper that a small batch escaped the mint completely unnoticed. The truth is, they're still out there. Which means the next one could be sitting in your pocket change right now. But let's pause for a second, because here's where most people make a mistake. They assume every 2004 penny without a clear mint mark is worth millions. That's not true. Many coins suffer from simple wear and tear, circulation scratches, or weak strikes that make the mint mark hard to see. Those aren't valuable. The genuine no mint mark error is crisp, clean, and unmistakable. The space where the mint mark should be is completely blank. That tiny missing detail is the golden ticket. Collectors who know this secret are rushing to search their drawers, piggy banks, and old coin jars. And why wouldn't they? We're talking about a chance to turn a single cent into $1.2 million. Think about that for a moment. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. But the story gets even stranger. Some of these pennies have popped up in the unlikeliest of places: flea markets, garage sales, even old piggy banks that hadn't been touched in decades. Every discovery sparks the same reaction: disbelief, followed by a rush of excitement, and then the reality that they're suddenly holding a fortune in the palm of their hand. Now, if you're wondering how to make sure you don't miss one, here's the key. Grab every 2004 penny you come across. Hold it up to the light. Look carefully just under Lincoln's portrait, near the date. If you see a D or a P, it's just a normal coin. But if that space is blank, no mint mark at all, you might be staring at a treasure. Condition matters too. Coins in pristine, uncirculated shape fetch the highest prices, while worn examples can still bring in shocking amounts. So here's the million-dollar question. Have you checked your 2004 pennies lately? Because while most people ignore them, a select few are cashing in on one of the most unbelievable discoveries of our time. And here's the truth you can't forget. Somewhere, out there, more of these pennies are waiting to be found. In jars, in drawers, maybe even in your wallet right now. Every time you pick up a penny, you're holding history, chance, and maybe even a miracle. Because this isn't just about a coin. It's about possibility. The chance that something ordinary could turn out to be extraordinary. That a penny worth 1 cent could suddenly be worth over $1 million. So the next time you see a 2004 penny, don't toss it aside. Don't overlook it. Look closer. Because the exact coin that could change your life may already be in your hands. Yes, I'm talking about a simple Lincoln penny from 1985 with a tiny little D mint mark. The kind of coin you've probably handled hundreds of times in your life, never giving it a second thought. But hidden among the billions of pennies struck that year is a mistake so rare, so valuable, that it has left collectors stunned. And one of these coins has sold for as much as $1.3 million. Think about that for a second. A coin you could find in your pocket change today, worth more than a house, more than most people's retirement savings. The story takes us back to 1985, at the Denver Mint. Machines were working around the clock, cranking out billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies. Most of them were identical, ordinary, destined to circulate and wear down to almost nothing. But in the middle of all that chaos, a flaw slipped through. A striking error, so subtle that nearly everyone overlooked it. For years, this special penny moved through everyday life. Maybe it bought a stick of gum, maybe it was tossed into a jar, maybe it sat in a dusty drawer for decades. Nobody noticed its secret. Not until one lucky collector spotted the tiniest of details, and realized what they were holding wasn't just a penny, but $1 million miracle. When word got out that a 1985 D penny had sold for more than $1 million, collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers rushed to get their hands on one. Auction houses lit up with bidding wars. And regular people across the country started tearing through their coin jars, desperately searching for one of these hidden treasures. So what makes this coin so valuable? Here's the secret. The 1985 D penny isn't just any coin. The D mint mark on some examples shows dramatic doubling errors, or strange striking defects. In rare cases, the coin was struck on the wrong planchet, a mistake that means it was made with the wrong kind of metal blank. These flaws make the coin unique, a once-in-a-generation mistake that transforms a 1-cent piece into a collector's prize worth millions. But here's the real kicker: most people miss it. They see the date, they see the little D, and they think it's just another penny. They toss it aside, not realizing they just let $1 million slip through their fingers. Collectors who understand the signs know exactly what to look for. They study the coin's details under magnification. They check the mint mark, the strike, the weight, even the edges. Because one tiny difference can be the dividing line between a worthless coin and a life-changing fortune. And every so often, another one turns up. Sometimes in change from a grocery store. Sometimes in an old coin collection passed down through a family. Sometimes hiding at the bottom of a forgotten piggy bank. One man found his in a jar he'd been saving for years. He almost took it to the bank to cash in, but something told him to take a closer look. That single decision changed his life forever. He walked away with over $1 million for a coin he almost gave away for 1 cent. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. For every rare 1985 D penny that's been discovered, there are still more waiting out there. The U.S. Mint never revealed exactly how many slipped through, and nobody knows how many remain hidden in circulation. That means you could still find one today. Dealers are still searching. Collectors are still chasing. And regular people, just like you, are turning over pennies right now, hoping lightning strikes in their hands. So how do you know if you've got the $1 million penny? Start with the basics. Look at the date, 1985, with a D mint mark under it. Then look closer. Is the mint mark doubled? Is the strike uneven? Does the coin feel slightly lighter or heavier than a normal penny? Those are the clues that tell you you've stumbled onto something extraordinary. But here's the danger: so many people stop looking too soon. They assume their penny is ordinary. They never check under good lighting. They never grab a magnifying glass. And because of that, life-changing coins are overlooked every single day. Because one of the greatest thrills in coin collecting is the possibility that your next coin, your very next penny, could be the one worth $1 million. Think about it. Right now, in a drawer, in a jar, maybe even in your pocket, you could be holding a 1985 D Lincoln penny that's worth up to $1.3 million. And if you don't look closely, you'll never know. Check every penny. Treasure every coin. Because history has proven that the smallest details can hide the biggest fortunes. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it became one of the most shocking penny discoveries of all time. A simple 1987 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, the kind most people toss into a jar or leave behind on a convenience store counter, has been valued at up to $1.4 million. Yes, you heard that right. A penny, the lowest form of U.S. currency, transformed into $1 million miracle. How could a coin you've seen 1,000 times in your lifetime hide such unimaginable value? The story behind this coin is stranger, more dramatic, and more inspiring than you can imagine. The year was 1987. Ronald Reagan was in the White House. Gas was under $1. And the penny? It was nothing special. Just copper-plated zinc, made by the billions, churned out of the mint like clockwork. To most people, the penny was practically worthless. But deep in the Philadelphia Mint, something unusual happened. A rare minting error slipped through, so rare that most collectors didn't even know it existed until years later. Unlike the Denver and San Francisco pennies, which proudly carry their tiny mint marks, these 1987 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies carry a silent secret. A missing letter, a detail so small that most people's eyes glide right over it. But for collectors, that missing mark changed everything. And here's where it gets shocking. One of these pennies, completely overlooked, traveled across the country in everyday circulation. It passed through vending machines, pockets, and cash registers, until finally, a sharp-eyed collector spotted it. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, this penny, this plain, no mint mark piece of pocket change, commanded a price tag of over $1 million. Why would someone pay $1.4 million for a coin worth just 1 cent at face value? The answer lies in rarity, history, and the collector's eternal dream of holding a piece of the impossible. Out of the billions of pennies minted in 1987, only a tiny handful were struck without a mint mark. And those few survivors became the holy grail for collectors. Dealers were shocked. Auctions buzzed. And suddenly, a coin most people had ignored for decades became the star of the numismatic world. Imagine it. One man's pocket change becoming his ticket to fortune. 1 cent transforming into $1 million miracle. That's the kind of story that makes coin collectors' hearts race. Because if it happened to him, it could happen to you. It's not just the missing mint mark. It's the condition, the sharpness of the strike, the way time has preserved its details. In fact, experts say that most people who have this penny don't even realize it. They might spend it at the grocery store, hand it to their kids for candy, or toss it in a jar. Meanwhile, the right buyer would see a rare treasure worth more than a mansion. Even small imperfections, like a light double die error or an unusual color tone, can skyrocket the value of these coins. Collectors are rushing to grab every 1987 penny they can find, just in case they're holding the hidden prize. Now picture this. You walk into your attic, pull out that old coffee can of coins you haven't touched in years, and inside is a 1987 penny without a mint mark. At first, you don't think much of it. But then you look closer, and your heart skips a beat. Could this be the one? Could this be your $1 million miracle? This is exactly why so many people are going through their spare change right now. The dream isn't just about money. It's about history. It's about holding a piece of America's story that almost slipped through the cracks. And it's about the hope that, just maybe, the universe has tucked away a fortune in the most ordinary of places, your pocket. Here's what to look for. First, check the date, 1987. Then, check just below the year and above the rim. If you see no mint mark at all, no tiny D or S, you may have something special. Next, examine the condition. The sharper the detail, the higher the value. A crisp, uncirculated coin is worth exponentially more than one that's scratched or worn. And finally, if you suspect you have the real deal, never clean it, and get it graded by a trusted coin authority. Most 1987 pennies are just pennies. But a rare few are treasures. And one of them, in pristine condition, has already proven to be worth $1.4 million. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a closer look at that change. That ordinary penny could be the key to a life-changing discovery. A coin most people ignore could be sitting quietly in your home, waiting to be recognized. Every $1 million penny started its journey as just 1 cent. The question is, will you be the one to find it? The year was 1994. Billboards were plastered with movie ads for Forrest Gump, gas was barely over $1 a gallon, and in the hum of everyday America, the Lincoln penny was still the most common coin in circulation. Nobody paid attention to it. You drop it in a jar, forget it in a couch cushion, or use it to cover sales tax at the grocery store. But deep inside the U.S. Mint, something unusual happened. A quiet mistake. A rare oversight. And out of it came a coin that today has shaken the entire coin collecting world. Collectors were shocked when the first whispers surfaced. A Lincoln penny from 1994, no mint mark, just a clean, unassuming face of Abraham Lincoln. At first glance, it looked like any other coin. But when dealers examined it more closely, they realized something extraordinary. This wasn't an ordinary penny. This was an error coin, a survivor of a minting process gone wrong. And because of that, it was worth a fortune. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. He had no idea what he was holding when he first spotted it. Just another coin rattling around at the bottom of a drawer. But when he brought it to a dealer, the reaction was instant: disbelief, excitement, and finally, silence. He had discovered a hidden treasure that most collectors dream about their entire lives. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, bidders from across the country battled for the chance to own it. Prices shot higher and higher, until the hammer finally dropped. This tiny 1-cent coin sold for more than $1 million. 1 cent turned into a life-changing fortune, and here's the twist most people miss. It's not just about the year. Not every 1994 penny is worth a fortune. The key is in the details. The no mint mark. The flawless or near-flawless condition. And sometimes, tiny errors like double dies, off-center strikes, or unusual finishes can make the difference between a penny that's worth a single cent and one worth over $1 million. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors can't believe that something so small, so overlooked, could carry such power. And every time one of these rare coins surfaces, the price climbs higher. The demand grows. The story spreads. Think about it. How many times have you tossed a penny without looking? How many times have you dumped them into a change jar, never realizing that one of them could be worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your retirement savings? That's the magic of this coin. It hides in plain sight, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a little bit of knowledge to recognize its true value. But here's where it gets even more thrilling. Most people don't know how to spot one. And that's why so many have been lost, overlooked, or ignored. So let's make sure you don't make the same mistake. If you come across a 1994 Lincoln penny, start by checking for a mint mark just below the year. A normal penny will have a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But if yours has no mint mark at all, that's when you should pay attention. Next, check its condition. Coins in near-perfect shape, with sharp details and minimal wear, command the highest prices. Finally, look closely for errors, doubling in the date or lettering, off-center strikes, or any unusual features. These details could push its value into the stratosphere. Collectors are calling this one of the most legendary pennies of the 1990s. Dealers whisper about it like a secret code. And ordinary people, just like you, have stumbled onto these coins and walked away with a fortune. So the next time you see a penny, don't ignore it. Don't toss it aside. Take a closer look. Because this exact coin, the 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, could be sitting in your drawer, your piggy bank, or your pocket right now. And if you're lucky enough to find one, you're not just holding a coin. You're holding a story. A miracle. A piece of history worth over $1 million. And if you want to keep uncovering the secrets of coins like this, the ones hiding in plain sight, waiting to change your life, make sure to subscribe. Because the next treasure could be just 1 penny away. But when it surfaced at auction, it stunned the entire coin world, because it was worth over $1 million. Yes, a simple 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin most people would never think twice about, became one of the most valuable modern treasures in U.S. history. But how can such an ordinary coin, a penny from the late 80s, the same year when Michael Jackson's Bad tour was rocking the world, and Ronald Reagan was in the White House, be hiding a secret that makes it worth more than a luxury mansion? The answer lies in one tiny detail. A mistake so small most people miss it completely. Here's the shocking backstory. In 1988, the U.S. Mint was still producing billions of pennies a year. Machines clanged, presses thundered, and coins rolled off the line by the millions. Most were perfect, just everyday pocket change. But every once in a while, something went wrong. A die was swapped. A mint mark was missing. And in the chaos of production, a coin slipped out that should never have existed. That's what happened with this 1988 penny. No mint mark. No sign of its birthplace. Just an innocent copper-colored coin, hiding an error that would one day be worth a fortune. Collectors first whispered about it years later. A handful of sharp-eyed hobbyists noticed something strange. Where there should have been a tiny D or S marking the coin's origin, there was nothing. At first, people dismissed it. Just a worn penny, they thought. But the truth spread like wildfire once grading companies confirmed it. This wasn't wear. It wasn't damage. It was a true mint error, and one of the rarest of its kind. But what happened next stunned everyone. In an auction house buzzing with anticipation, one of these 1988 no-mint mark pennies crossed the block. The bidding started modestly, a few thousand here, a few thousand there. But then, collectors realized what they were looking at. Phones lit up. Dealers whispered in disbelief. And in a flurry of bids, that humble penny soared past every expectation, climbing into the hundreds of thousands, and then crossing into the realm of over $1 million. The gavel fell. The room went silent. A penny, worth $1.60 million. Think about that for a second. A coin that could have been lost in a couch cushion, tossed into a tip jar, or dropped on the sidewalk was suddenly elevated into history. One man's pocket change became a life-changing miracle. And now, collectors everywhere are on the hunt for the next one. Here's the part you need to hear. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million comes down to details you can actually spot. The missing mint mark is key, but you have to know where to look. On a normal 1988 penny, just beneath the date, you'll see a tiny letter. A D for Denver, an S for San Francisco. But on the rarest of these coins, there's nothing at all. Smooth. Clean. Empty. And that's not the only thing to watch for. Sharp collectors also check for condition. Scratches, dents, or heavy wear can lower the value. But if you find one in pristine shape, glowing with its original luster, you could be holding a jackpot in your hands. Dealers and grading companies will pay enormous premiums for coins that have survived untouched since the day they left the mint. Imagine finding one. You're sorting through your old change jar. You see a 1988 penny. You almost toss it aside. But something makes you look closer. No mint mark. Your heart skips. Could it be? You send it in to be graded, and weeks later, the results come back. Authentic. Rare. Worth more than you ever dreamed possible. Suddenly, your ordinary life changes forever. Collectors were shocked when the first one hit the market. Dealers scrambled to get their hands on any example. And now, The legend of the 1988 no-mint mark penny has grown into one of the most thrilling stories in coin collecting. It's the kind of discovery that keeps every collector searching, every pocket of change worth double-checking, every old drawer and jar holding the promise of fortune. The next one could be anywhere. It could be in circulation right now, passing through hands at a grocery store. It could be sitting in a forgotten piggy bank. It could even be waiting for you in your own home. So the next time you see a 1988 penny, don't just toss it away. Flip it over. Check under the date. Look closely. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it finally surfaced, collectors couldn't believe their eyes. Because this ordinary-looking 1994 Lincoln penny without a mint mark was suddenly valued at up to $1.7 million. Think about that for a second. A coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, worth more than most houses in America. And the wildest part? Thousands of people have brushed past this exact penny without realizing it. Now here's where it gets strange. The year 1994 wasn't exactly known for rare pennies. Bill Clinton was in office, the internet was just beginning to reach homes, and the Lincoln cent was something everyone used every single day. Yet in the heart of the U.S. Mint, a mysterious error slipped through the cracks. Some pennies left the presses without the tiny mint mark that should have told us exactly where they were made. That missing detail, a tiny omission smaller than a grain of rice, is the reason this coin has shaken the entire collecting world. But what happened next stunned everyone. For years, these no-mint mark 1994 pennies circulated quietly in pockets, purses, and cash registers. People spent them on coffee, candy, or gas without a second thought. And then one day, a sharp-eyed collector spotted the difference. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. But after closer inspection, the truth set in. He was holding a coin that dealers were whispering about, a coin some experts valued at over $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. Because once the story broke, this wasn't just a penny anymore, it became a legend. Here's the detail that most people miss. On the front of the 1994 penny, just below the date, there should normally be a tiny D or P depending on the mint where it was struck. But in this extraordinary case, there's nothing. No letter. Just a bare date, 1994. And that small blank space is what transformed a common coin into one of the most valuable Lincoln cents of all time. But the mystery didn't stop there. At auction, when the first of these rare no-mint mark pennies crossed the block, the room was electric. Collectors held their breath as the numbers climbed higher and higher. By the time the hammer dropped, the coin's value had soared into the millions. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. And yet, here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. Nobody knows how many more of these coins are still out there. Every day, people dig through old jars, glove compartments, or dresser drawers, never realizing they might be staring at the same fortune. But what makes this story even more powerful is that it could happen to anyone. Imagine cleaning out your childhood piggy bank and suddenly spotting a 1994 penny that looks just a little different. Imagine realizing that a single coin you've ignored for decades is actually the ticket to financial freedom. That's why experts always say, never underestimate pocket change. Now let's talk about what to look for. If you have a 1994 Lincoln penny, hold it up to the light. Look closely beneath the date. If you see no mint mark, no D, no P, just a clean number 1994, you might be holding history in your hands. But be careful. Many people confuse worn-down mint marks for true no-mint mark coins. A genuine one will show absolutely nothing there, no trace of a letter, even under magnification. That tiny distinction is the difference between 1 cent and over $1 million. And don't be fooled by counterfeits. Some people have tried to scratch off mint marks, hoping to pass them off as errors. Professional grading services can spot the difference instantly. If you think you've found one, always get it authenticated before making any decisions. Here's the chilling thought. Right now, a 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny could be rattling around in a coin jar, waiting for someone bold enough, curious enough, or lucky enough to notice it. It could be yours. It could be your neighbor's. And in the blink of an eye, a penny that seemed worthless could change your life forever. So the next time you see a 1994 penny, don't just toss it aside. Hold it up. Look closely. That little missing mint mark could be the single most valuable detail you've ever seen, because hidden in plain sight, a penny that should have been ordinary has already sold for up to $1.7 million. And yours might be next. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it finally surfaced, it shocked the entire coin collecting world by being worth not just a few dollars, not just a few thousand, but nearly $1.8 million. And the craziest part? You might have the exact same coin sitting in your pocket right now. Back in 1988, the Lincoln penny was just another everyday coin. Tens of millions were struck that year at U.S. mints across the country. People used them for vending machines, tossed them in jars, dropped them under couch cushions. Nobody thought twice about them. But hidden in that massive sea of ordinary coins, a tiny handful were struck with an extraordinary mistake. A minting error so subtle, so unexpected, that it would take years before collectors realized just how rare it really was. And this is where the story takes a twist. Most people assume every penny is the same. After all, it's just Lincoln on one side, the memorial on the other, right? But the truth is, the U.S. Mint isn't perfect. Dies get mixed up. Designs overlap. Mint marks vanish. And in 1988, something slipped through the cracks. A no-mint mark Lincoln penny was struck in error, a coin that was never supposed to exist. For a while, nobody noticed. This penny traveled from hand to hand, pocket to register, register to pocket. It may have been used to pay for gum, a bus ride, or a morning coffee. Imagine the number of people who touched this coin without ever realizing they were holding a fortune. Collectors call this the ghost coin of 1988, because for years, it was hiding in plain sight. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these pennies surfaced in a small collection and made its way to auction. The bidding started modestly, but as experts realized what they were looking at, the room went silent. Then, the offers began to climb, higher and higher, breaking through expectations. Collectors were shocked as this little coin crossed into 6 figures, then 7. By the end, it sold for a staggering $1.8 million. Now here's the part that makes collectors' hearts race. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth millions often comes down to a single detail. In the case of the 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the error lies exactly where most people never look. Instead of carrying the expected mint mark, this coin shows none at all. To the casual eye, it just looks normal. But to trained collectors, that missing mark is a golden ticket, and this isn't just about missing letters. There are subtle signs in the design itself. Some of these 1988 pennies show die clashes, doubling, or faint misalignments that make them even rarer. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any of these coins because they know the right specimen could set new records at auction. But here's what most people miss. They think, oh, mine doesn't have a mint mark, maybe it's worth millions. Not so fast. Not every 1988 penny without a mint mark is valuable. You have to know what to look for. Genuine million-dollar specimens show very specific strike characteristics, including sharp details in Lincoln's eye and the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Coins that have been worn down or damaged don't make the cut. That's why professional grading is everything. Collectors who don't know this end up selling their coins for pennies, while others walk away with life-changing money. Imagine that for a moment. 2 people could hold the same-looking coin, one worth a cent, the other worth nearly $2 million, and only the trained eye would know the difference. But here's the ultimate takeaway. This story isn't just about luck. It's about awareness. These coins are out there, in jars, in drawers, in old collections passed down from grandparents. Every year, new discoveries are made, and every time, the coin world is stunned all over again. So the next time you pick up a penny, don't just toss it aside. Hold it to the light. Look carefully at the details. Pay close attention to the mint mark, or in this case, the absence of one. Because the coin in your hand could be the very one collectors have been chasing for decades. Think about it. A coin you could have overlooked, a coin you might have spent without a second thought, could actually be worth over $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth $1.8 million.